So grammar. Now, once our kids can string phonograms together to form words, we start stringing words together to form sentences. So native English speakers, again, they unconsciously pick this stuff up. They pick up the basic rules of grammar as they grow. The repetition of language itself is enough to get those patterns across. Most of us get quite facile in producing decent sentences that play by the rules without any instruction in grammar at all. Okay? But in a classical school, we want to do more than just form sentences that are more or less comprehensible. The study of grammar, it's worth it for its own sake because it sort of opens the doors to further language study down the road, but it's also, it's just wonderful training and learning how to think. Understanding grammar, it also helps you avoid errors in writing, and that's a nice byproduct. But the real reason we study grammar in a classical school is because it gives us tools to become better readers and writers, and I'm going to show you exactly how that works. Grammar is the analysis of language, of a sentence, and the better you understand how a sentence works, the better you will understand the expressions of others and how to control the effectiveness of your own expressions. So let's move on to the next step. Grammatical analysis through our two classical tools of parsing and diagramming. So first, parsing. Now we teach and reteach the parts of speech throughout the grammar stage. So here's parsing at its most basic. And we use what's called the Shirley method, which is just a modern parsing technique that has a sort of a question and answer flow that kids can use to help them observe the grammatical construction of a sentence. So the first one is, we see. So this is every kid, if you had all my students in this class, they'd be able to do this right along with me. We see. Who sees? We. Subject pronoun. What is being said about we? We see. Verb. Subject noun. Intensive verb. We see. Period. Statement. Declarative sentence. Go back to the verb. Divide the complete subject from the complete predicate. So that's basic parsing at its most basic. Now you could observe that this is sort of first person plural indicative or nominative, and you could say this is sort of, you know, plural verb, present tense, active voice, whatever. But at the grammar stage, we're not really getting that complicated yet. So let's ramp it up a bit. This is from 1 Corinthians 13. Now we see through a glass darkly. Who sees through a glass darkly? We. Subject pronoun. What is being said about we? We see. Verb. Through. Preposition. Through what? Glass. Object of the preposition. A. Article adjective. We see how? Darkly. Adverb. We see when? Now. Adverb. Subject, noun, verb. Pattern 1. I'm giving you a pattern number because actually Shirley Grammar gives you a set of patterns. Check through a glass. Prepositional phrase. Period, statement, declarative sentence. Go back to the verb. Divide the complete subject from the complete predicate. So after just a few months of practice, all our first graders will be able to parse simple sentences in this way. And it's very, very, very different from most modern presentations of grammar that I've seen, where kids sort of study parts of speech in isolation. Grammar is best taught in the context of the whole sentence. So, you know, to just go through a bunch of sentences and just find all the nouns, that's not, I mean, that's a useful exercise, you know, when you're teaching the noun part of speech. But if that's all you're doing, that's, you know, I mean, grammar is all about how words are in relation to each other. So you need to be able to see how the word is functioning in the entire sentence. So we construct and deconstruct sentences daily in our classical school, you know, through parsing. So diagramming. Once we've parsed it, we diagram it. So why diagram? Educator Mary Daly said, teaching grammar without teaching diagrams is like teaching geography without maps. So diagramming sort of gives you a visual snapshot of what we just did with the parsing. So the diagram for we see, it would just be subject on this side, predicate on the other. We see. That's all there is to the diagram. You know, it just gives you a very visual picture. Now down here, we see when, now. We see how, through, glass. Which glass? A glass. We see how, darkly. Okay? So that's a basic diagram for those two sentences. So as a student learns to diagram these basic sentence structures in the English language, he starts to get this sort of inner intuition about sentence structure that increases his confidence in reading and writing more complex thoughts. So if you look at the back of your handout, you're going to see a diagram for the first sentence of the Constitution. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. Now, I can tell you from experience that children who are not used to parsing and diagramming, they're sort of terrified of a sentence this long, okay? The structure is just, they look at it, it's just complicated, it's sort of frightening. But children who have practiced these tools, they've got this sort of innate, natural, subconscious way of sort of finding the subject that we, the people, that is the appositive right there, we the people, that's what we're talking about, okay? That's the subject of this sentence, us, we the people. And then finding sort of where the verb is. And the verb is sort of buried in the sentence, but it's a compound verb. What do? What's being said about we? We do ordain and establish. We have a compound verb here. We do ordain and establish what? A constitution. That's what this sentence is saying. We, the people, ordain and establish a constitution. And then there are a couple modifiers. It's we, the ones in the United States. The Constitution is for the United States. And then there's this big mess up here. And this big mess up here, it's all just a modifier. It's just a compound modifier, just explaining why we do this. And, you know, in order to, and then there's this sort of 6 different reasons. So the kid now has this visual picture of this sentence, and he understands almost without even thinking about it, you know, that there are 6 reasons why we the people are doing this, okay? So sort of the point of diagramming, one of the points of diagramming, is to just give kids this subconscious facility with understanding sentence structure. It helps them with their reading, it helps them with their writing. So then to complete our grammar study, we would note any mechanics rules. You know, we'd note this is capitalize the first word in a sentence. You know, there's always an end mark at the end. So there's really just 2 mechanics rules in play in that particular sentence. But that would be, you know, what we would do at the end of a parsing and diagram exercises. We'd do the mechanics. And the whole point of this, again, is that it's a tool for greater things, as you will see shortly.